all across America and around the world. This is Veterans Radio. This is Veterans Radio.
Good day. I'm Jim Fausone. I'm the officer of the deck today here on Veterans Radio, and thanks for joining us. We've got some interesting stories for you. We always want to remind you you can find more about Veterans Radio at its Facebook site or at the web, veteransradio.org, where we're on the web 24/7. You can find a lot of our podcasts there as well. We post new ones every Tuesday, so you can get a new story, a new interview, something you didn't know before by going to veteransradio.org. And before we get started, we want to thank our sponsors. First up, we want to thank National Veteran Business Development Council, nvbdc.org. It was established to certify both service-disabled and veteran-owned businesses. You'll find out how they can help your business by going to nvbdc.org. We want to thank Legal Help for Veterans. Legal Help for Veterans fights for veterans' disability rights all across the nation. You can reach them at 800-693-4800 or on the web at legalhelpforveterans.com. And finally, PuroClean. PuroClean is the paramedics of property damage. It provides water damage remediation, flood water removal, fire and smoke damage remediation, mold removal, biohazard cleanup. It also has a focus on veteran franchisees. You can learn more about them by going to puroclean.com. We want to welcome to Veterans Radio Chris Lewis, a Marine and Army vet. We're going to talk a little bit about that, but he's involved in a really cool effort in getting veterans into the drone industry. Chris, welcome to Veterans Radio.
Thanks, Jim. It's great to be here.
How did a nice kid like you first end up in the Marines for about 8 years, then did a couple of years in the Army, and then moved on? Tell us about it.
Well, I am an Army brat. I was born on Fort Polk, and I asked my mother, who did 23 years in the Army, I asked her, what branch to go into, and she said, whatever you do, don't join the Marine Corps. So naturally, where I ended up.
Exactly. So tell us what you did in the Marine Corps.
Did motor transport, and that's kind of where I got my first touch on drones. I was actually deployed to Helmand Province, Afghanistan, and was handed a box and said, hey, you got to use this thing. I said, what's in the box? They said, it's a drone. I was like, what's a drone? 20-year-old Lance Corporal, had no idea, but we did figure it out. So ended up flying that during convoy operations. So we did security, gun trucks around long logistics convoys across Helmand Province, and through the RQ-11 Raven, and did persistent ISR around the convoys whenever we went firm at night, and began to deploy in the mornings as well.
Well, it's really been an interesting progression to watch how drones have become almost mandatory gear in military life. You just have to watch the nightly news and see what Russia's doing to Ukraine and Ukraine's doing to Russia, and the advances the U.S. is trying to get, and actually even Taiwan, I was reading about, trying to build up a drone arsenal, whether they are in the air or in the water, to counter some of the activities of the Chinese. So drones and drone operation proliferates in the military world. How did you move your military experience with drone operations over into the civilian world?
That's a great question. I think I got really lucky, to be honest. I got out of the military 2018, went to NC State using the GI Bill, was actually given a couple of courses and projects that involved drones, and was going to end up in grad school doing agricultural-based research using drones to do multispectral imagery across North Carolina. But COVID hit, laboratory shut down, ended up with a nice shiny piece of paper, May of 2020, and then found a guy at the park right here in Raleigh. And he said, do you want to go to California and start flying robots around and making money doing it? I said, yes.
Where do I sign, right?
Exactly. Less than 48 hours later, we were on the road in a 2002 F-150, camping gear in tow, robots in the back, and we drove to California, where we started doing power line inspections for the wildfire mitigation program out there. That was my first kind of toes getting dipped in the water, if you will. Finished up that contract, went down to Hurricane Dorian in Florida. Same thing, power line inspections down there. Eventually got licensed, became a Part 107 holding drone pilot, if you will. Then went out to the Midwest and started doing telecommunication inspections across the Midwest. And that kind of started my cycle of contracting operations across the country. Naturally started recruiting other veterans into the industry, just like, hey, I found something. It's incredible. It fits like a glove. You won't believe it, but come on out here with me. So I started bringing other veterans. My brother is an Air Force veteran, brought him with me on one of the contracts, or several contracts. Some guys I served in the Marine Corps with, folks I met at NC State, some fellow veteran students, and started bringing them out on contracts with me. And then about 2 or 3 years of that, we met up at a bar in San Bernardino, California during one of these contracts with about 40 other veterans and another drone pilot, and says, hey, we're going to formalize this kind of initiative of recruiting, and we're going to call it Vets to Drones, and we're going to start this program and start bringing other veterans into the industry.
Well, it's a great a great idea and an advancing industry, right? It's an area where you can see growth just happening probably every month. But for the uninitiated, Chris, talk about the areas that civilian drone operators work. What industries use them these days?
Oh, that's a great question. There's a variety of verticals across the industry, and everywhere you look, there's opportunity. You got to make sure you stay focused in your niche and learn your niche early. So I started in power line inspections. So infrastructure in general is kind of the area of expertise I sunk my teeth into when I first got in. So power line inspections with manual flight, cell tower inspections, doing digital twin recreation, using autonomous orbits around vertical structures. Then I went into construction mapping, and then I kind of started dipping my toes into other areas as well. But the infrastructure inspection side is what we usually push the veterans in our program towards, because there's a lot of employment and 1099 contract opportunities in that area. Now,
this is not just power line infrastructure. It's all types of infrastructure, is it not?
Absolutely. I've done solar farms, cell towers, construction yards, agricultural mapping, spreading and spraying with agricultural drones. And then what the power lines, I mean, if you go outside, you see them far and wide. They're all over the country. So,
yeah, the agricultural application is very interesting, too, because, many folks live in the big cities. But if you drive across this country, almost in every state, you're going to be amazed at the level of agricultural that we have, and how knowing what's going on from an aerial point of view would really be helpful, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, the data and imagery received during an agricultural mapping mission, especially using multispectral imagery, can give you pinpoint accuracy of where the failure points are in a given field. It doesn't matter the size of the acreage. We have a growing partnership with Pix4D, where some of our members are licensed instructors for that software. We teach other veterans how to use that as well. And then we have a new one that's coming up with Agrimo, which is a agricultural-based software company that's designed just for agricultural solutions in the drone space.
I was looking at some materials, and it also seems to me that it's also being widely used in the real estate industry. And I want you to talk a little bit about how it's being used in disaster relief as well.
Absolutely. So on the real estate side, it's been kind of hit or miss, depending on, either you are involved in real estate or realtors and they're willing to bring you on as a Part 107 holder. There were some gray areas early on where real estate agents were just buying drones and flying for themselves without getting licensed. And that caused the FAA to start pinpointing people and shelling out some pretty hefty fines. So I don't recommend doing that. Make sure you get licensed. It's a $175 license versus a $12,000 fine. So, but great use case there.
Even a Marine can figure that out and know how that equation works. You didn't have to talk to your brother who was an Air Force vet He didn't listen to Mom, or I should say he did listen to Mom. He didn't join the Marines.
Yeah, it's written in plague and crayon. It's easy to understand. Don't get the $12,000 fine. Go for the $175 certification.
You've mentioned it a couple of times, and I want to focus on this because these aren't your toy hobby drones, line of sight. You're going to crash them every time you fly them. These are professional commercial drones, and as you mentioned, you need a license. Tell us about the Part 107 licensing and your friends at the FAA.
Perfect. So the Part 107 is the minimum certification to earn any type of income when it comes to using drones and operating in the national airspace. It is not that difficult. I tell people if you're okay at land nav, you just add a Z-axis to land nav, and now you're in the airspace. If you can, read a map on 2D, you add some third dimension to it, you can figure it out. There's a couple of trick questions. It is a federally proctored test, but it is not that difficult to learn. That is one thing that we provide as well as the Part 107 instruction through our program. But it's the first step into getting into the industry. It is far from enough to be considered a true subject matter expert or professional in this field, but it's a step in the right direction.
As I mentioned, this area is exploding. I think there's some estimates of there's going to be hundreds of thousands of jobs in this field over the next 10 years. Pays pretty good, 50 maybe to 100 grandish, depending on who you're signing on with or if you're running independent contractors. There's some real things that may be of interest to veterans. You're outdoors working. You don't have a boss, hitting the time clock over your shoulder maybe the same way. Technology, these are all things which sort of veterans will gravitate to, but they have to know what they're doing, and that gets us to vet2drones.org. Tell us what the mission of Vets to Drones is.
Perfect. So we're introducing veterans into the industry. We have 5 core mission sets. Workforce development is first, making sure that the veterans in our program understand how to use these drones at a professional capacity, whether that's manual flight for real estate, video, photography, that kind of thing, or doing the full data capture and processing and even crafting a deliverable for their clients. After that, it's K through 12 education. Several of our members are educators in the K through 12 realm. Others do after school programs, drone building programs. There's even a drone soccer league, both the US drone soccer league and there's a Korean derivative as well, where they're getting kids into STEM education using drone technology, because it's very exciting. Consider it like a Quidditch for drones, if you will. Then of course, natural disaster response, which we can dive into. One of the concepts in the industry is drones for good. And disaster response is one of the number one areas you can use a drone to help people in a variety of ways. Then there's conservation. The first project I came up with for our program was the Veterans in the Forest project. We started down in San Diego, and we did mapping missions for reforestation. And we went all the way up to the Dakotas and across to Pennsylvania and across the entire country, doing these mapping missions, and then bringing other veterans with us along the way. It turned into a cool camping trip where you learn how to fly drones all across the U.S. In different forested areas. Then our final mission is recreational therapy. We do fly days, drone demo days, if you will. We travel around the country. We get together with a bunch of veterans and just fly. During the day, it's outdoors. It has to be a pretty nice day. It's a sober environment, and you're learning a potentially monetizable skill. So those are our 5 core missions in the Vets to Drones program.
Yeah, and you can find more about Vets to Drones by going to vet2drones.org. There's a lot of great information there. As you mentioned, this is sort of a nationwide program. Not only have you done projects all over the country with drones and mapping and disaster relief, but I also see that you sort of have a regular online program, a discussion, newsletters. Tell us a little bit about how you engage veterans on a regular basis.
So before, the VA newsletter came out and our numbers have just exploded, right? We've had over 100,000 people reach out in a month, and it's just been really exciting. before that, we do a weekly webinar. We get online, we talk about the drone industry as a whole, and we talk about problems here, different events that are coming up, job opportunities there, and what's going on in the industry as a whole. So since that insurgence, the influx of veterans coming in, we've broken the country down into 10 different districts. We've began assigning different district or regional commanders, if you will, so we can better control and understand different areas of the country and the needs based on those areas.
Yeah, one of the problems of success is you got to figure out how to deal with it, right?
Yes, absolutely. So, but when I founded this program, it wasn't that veterans need help getting into the industry. It's more that the industry needs help from the veterans that have been doing this type of operation technically the Marine Corps had the first drone program in 1989. We'll take that claim to fame.
There you go.
We've had we have this experience, or these experiences that add into this industry as a whole. And, as an American drone industry, we're a little bit behind the curve when it comes to manufacturing and some of the processes that are being implemented across the industry. So I know that the industry as a whole can use our help, and we get the right people, the brightest minds, and the capable veterans into this industry will help out.
Well, it's both the technical aspect of flying these drones, but you mentioned the software and the data analysis, right? Because all you're doing when you're flying is collecting data. Mm-hmm. How does that work? Is the operator involved in the data quality and data manipulation, or does that get handed off to a whole nother segment of the industry?
That is a great question. So there's different levels to your kind of progression into the industry. There's salary based, W-2 based. There's 1099 freelance work, and then starting your own full blown business. If you're doing salary based or W-2, usually you're doing just data collection, and there's a data processing unit at the company that you will upload and pass that data along to. When you get into the 1099 freelance work, you'll start touching the data and maneuvering data a little bit more. If you own your own small business and is your brand out there approaching the clients, you're collecting the data, processing the data, and producing that deliverable for the client. So it's not just one thing or the other.
And do you find that there are veterans going into, hey, now that I've got my experience and sea legs here on this, I'm going to go ahead and start my own business. I want to be my own entrepreneur here in this area. Is that possible?
Absolutely. I see it all the time. Many folks want to start their own drone business, and that's sometimes how they approach us, even before they have their Part 107. But what I recommend is the crawl, walk, run approach. I tell exactly how I did it. So I got into the industry, got paid to learn, used other people's equipment to learn how to maneuver the technology. And then once I built my bank account up enough, started my own small business and was able to pull in different contracts. And then I continuously rotated between, W-2 work and 1099 freelance and having my own small business all at the same time to kind of get things scalable.
Yeah, you got to build momentum, build reputation, be able to get new experiences to apply to future experiences when somebody's got an RFP out or asking for, hey, is this something that can be done? I think I cut you off earlier. You mentioned it again. I want to come back to it, and that's the disaster relief aspect of this. It's easy to visualize how how drones are used for information gathering in the field, in the battlefield. Tell us how it's used in disaster relief.
Perfect. So we've responded to a hurricane every year since 2020, at least one, right? Some tornadoes, stuff like that as well. The first initial use case is search and rescue. You have thermal-enabled drones. It is so much easier to get in the air and fly with a thermal-enabled drone, especially at nighttime, and identify where people may or may not be stranded or unreachable. Definitely unable to see them with the naked eye, right? So that is first and foremost the most impactful use case. Search and rescue using thermal and night vision enabled drones directly after a disaster. After that would be moving supplies. So these larger drones are able to do deliveries. Some of the agricultural drones can carry over 100 pounds and move supplies to and from areas that may have been cut off. We saw it during Hurricane Ian with Sanibel Island. They were using full-blown Chinooks, right? We didn't have as many delivery drones back then at our disposal, so they were using Chinooks to move things back and forth when the island was cut off. During Hurricane Helene, there were thousands of bridges out. So there was no way for Chinooks to go to every single cutoff area in that mountainous and highly elevated terrain. So drones were it. Using a delivery drone, an agricultural drone that was capable of carrying a heavier capacity was what was the easiest way to get supplies to and from these areas that were cut off. I know we've seen some areas were using like inflatable rafts across a river with a rope. That rope can get cut and go downriver, and all those supplies are gone. But a drone is just going to easily pick up 100 pounds to and from every single time. They're built that way. So.
And we're talking to Chris Lewis, who is the founder and grand poobah of vetstodrones.org. And you're in North Carolina, so being able to use drones as a result of the damage done by Helene in North Carolina had to be really satisfying to be able to help the community, which I think is another thing veterans want to do. We want to serve. This is kind of an interesting way to serve your community, isn't it?
Absolutely. So I'm, born and raised in Louisiana, grew up right outside of New Orleans. I moved to North Carolina, just about 20 years ago now, after Hurricane Katrina. So
you thought you got away from it all, didn't you?
Yeah, you think so? Yeah, now I chase it. So I don't know, but it's it's a passion project of mine, right? And the first year I got in the industry, ended up down responding for Hurricane Dorian in a commercial aspect, right? Doing the power line inspections, and then Hurricane Ian and Ida, same thing, commercial aspect with a little bit of humanitarian sprinkled in, doing cell towers. Capture down there disaster surveys as well. Post Helene, we've been up there since directly after the storm. Since it's in the state, we had a huge support network from fellow veterans across the state. Was sent there by the National Guard Association. The United States Veterans Corps out of Raleigh was a massive support network where we landed on the ground as the scouts, being the drone pilots, right? We're the first ones in. We have the technology. We're able to go and live off the land for weeks at a time. And then the logistics network of veterans just started flooding in. We set up shop right just north of Spruce Pine, North Carolina, which we still have a brick and mortar office today. And then began, once the search and rescue operations ended, we began mapping the area to further assess the effectiveness of the assets that were being deployed by the 18th Airborne Corps, Active Duty Army on Title 10 action, the North Carolina National Guard, Tennessee National Guard, I believe Kentucky National Guard was down there as well. And then the massive amount of veteran volunteers that showed up at the camp that we had set up just north of Spruce Pine on a fellow veteran's property.
We're using the term drone, which is sort of like saying Kleenex instead of tissue paper, right? There's a zillion different types of configurations and models of drones. In the commercial space, when you're doing these different types of inspections, how big are these drones? How costly are these drones? What capabilities do these drones have? Can you fill us in a little, Chris?
Sure. So some of the smaller UAVs, unmanned aerial vehicles, will be purely for data collection. You can go into some of the larger ones for agricultural and delivery operations. The data collection drones will cost between $2,000 and $40,000, really, depending on the type of data you're doing and collecting. And if it has an interchangeable sensor payload on there, those sensors can range between $4,000 and $12,000 just for the sensor alone, let alone the drone to fly it. The agricultural drones will range between $20,000 and $60,000. They're much larger. You need a higher level of licensing per state to be able to spread and spray different chemicals. So you have to get your Part 137 and your pesticide spraying license for each individual state to be able to get into that. Then there's the fixed wing drones that are used for long range, beyond visual line of sight, mapping, and corridor mapping, based off the needs of the client or the use case you're diving into. For Helene in particular, we mapped along the rivers in the mountains, which is very hard to reach areas. We mostly use quadcopters, which are the smaller, either Mavic series from DJI or the larger M300 series, using a mechanical shutter to do photogrammetry missions. That was in support of the Appalachian Rebuild Project, which is a project we helped establish up there in the mountains to raise money and rebuild some of the houses and other churches and other infrastructure that was damaged during the storm. Doing those mapping missions was very interesting and difficult because we had to use another layer of technology called a RTK, or real-time kinetic base station, that attached to the drone itself, so that the drones could fly nap of the earth versus just flying at a flat altitude. This enables the drone to be able to see where it is on Earth. So if it's flying at 300 feet, it will follow the elevation as it maps instead of flying straight into the side of a mountain. So
never good.
No. I mean, we do train veterans, and not all of us eat purple crayons, so they do get crashed from time to time.
I'll bet they do. As we're coming to the end of the time here, I want to thank Chris Lewis of veteranstodrones.org of taking some time, and it's really interesting to see how this military application is moving over to the civilian world, and that veterans have a role to play. Now, I know you got all kinds of inquiries because VA put the spotlight on you. Are you still interested in having vets reach out to you, and how do they do that?
Oh, absolutely. If you go onto the Vets to Drones website, you can find out how to reach out. There's a sign-up form right there. It'll get you onto one of our onboarding calls. We can start getting you into the mix. So we'll be providing that Part 107 training for free, so you can get licensed. And then there's a slew of expertise from the fellow veterans across the industry and instructors that we hire as well to provide instruction.
Well, we appreciate the time you've given us today, Chris, and an interesting look into this growing industry of civilian drone operators, and really sounds like a great opportunity to veterans. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate you.
We want to give you a little advance notice. We're going to have a Veterans Radio event on Sunday, September 28th, 2025. Radio on the River. We're doing a new location on Freedom River in Livingston County, Michigan. We want you to save the date. We're going to have veteran storytelling and guest speakers. We'll have raffle items, great local musicians and food. Also, uniquely, there's going to be an opportunity to fly in a UH-1 Huey from the Michigan Flight Museum. And maybe you can also win a free ride that way. But plan on supporting Veterans Radio either by buying tickets or sponsoring. Radio on the River. Contact us at dale@veteransradio.org or jim@veteransradio.org to get more information. But we'd love to have you come out, and we'd certainly love to have you sponsor. We just want to remind you that Veterans Radio podcasts are available on all your favorite streaming platforms, including RSS.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Rees Across America Radio. So wherever you are, you can find us, whether it's on your mobile phone or your computer or your laptop, your tablet. But listen in to Veterans Radio Podcasts. We post something new every week, and you're going to find it informative. And I want to thank everybody for listening to Veterans Radio today. I am Jim Faussone. It's been a pleasure to be your host. I'm a veterans disability lawyer at Legal Help for Veterans, and you can reach us at 800-693-4800 or legalhelpforveterans.com on the web. You can follow Veterans Radio on Facebook and listen to its podcasts and internet radio shows by visiting us at veteransradio.org. That's veteransradio.org. We again want to thank our national sponsors, the National Veterans Business Development Council, nvbdc.org, Legal Help for Veterans, a veterans disability law firm with a national practice before the VA, can help you on your claims and your appeals. It can be reached at legalhelpforveterans.com or 1-800-693-4800. And PuroClean, a leader in property emergency services. It's the paramedics of property damage, providing water damage remediation, flood water removal, fire and smoke damage remediation, mold and biohazard cleanups. You can reach them at puroclean.com or 800-775-7876. We also want to thank our local sponsors. This would include the Charles S. Kettles chapter of the Vietnam Veterans of America, that's chapter 310, VFW Graf O'Hara Post 423, the American Legion Irwin Preskin Post 46 in Ann Arbor as well, the VA Ann Arbor Healthcare System, and certainly the National Vietnam Veterans of America Association. You can be a sponsor by going to veteransradio.org, clicking on the About Us and our sponsors, and help us out. Keep this program alive for the 21 and 22 years. Keep us going for another 20. Thank you.